There will be no more. Welcome to the Last Star Wars podcast and part 2 of our Bad Batch breakdown, where we break down the Bad Batch, now streaming on Disney Plus. I'm your host, Spencer Chandler, here with my co-host, as always, Christian Miller. How's it going?
Good to be back.
It is
You
good to
said
be
the
back.
thing. There will be no more.
There
You
will be
said
no-
it.
Well, and for most people who actually listen to the podcast, it's only been like 2 months or like a month and a half since they've heard that. But for us, it's been like 4 months since we recorded a podcast. So if we're rusty, we apologize. This is the longest break I think that we've taken in our podcast history. But we did try to get some episodes out to you guys over the summer. So hopefully those went okay. It was over the summer. Maybe nobody listened to podcasts. Who knows? But yeah, so now we're back for good, and we're gonna have hopefully weekly episodes until the end of the summer. We will be covering Star Wars Visions next week. So if you're wondering where that's at, that's coming next week, Star Wars Visions, and then we're starting a brand new Mutual Rankings Marathon, which we will not disclose what that is until it comes out, because you have to listen and figure it out. But it's been recommended to us, and it's our first recommended, I guess, episode. But yeah, it's gonna be great, and it's gonna be a fun time. But today, we're here to wrap up season 1 of The Bad Batch. A couple months ago, we covered episodes 1 and 2 in one big episode, and now we're gonna cover episodes 3 through 16 in one episode, and try to not make it a 2.5 hour long mess of us talking nonsense to each other. So yeah, Christian, did you watch the rest of these episodes weekly when they came out?
No.
I didn't either. I actually binged them all in like the last week and a half. If you guys don't know, Christian and I worked. That's why we didn't release episodes. So neither of us really watched this episodically as it came out like most people would have. So I guess that kind of does, I wouldn't say that it degrades our experience, but it's definitely different than the people who were waiting week to week and had to wait at the end of those episodes. So
It felt weird to not be a part of the discussion
it
and
did.
the online sort of community reacting to it. I was working at a summer camp, and I had this one kid who had, he had seen all the episodes thus far, and just talking about how, oh, when I get home, I'll catch up in the last 2 weeks of Bad Batch, and he almost spoiled stuff from the first few episodes.
Yeah.
It was weird. I've never had that sort of
I've never felt out of the loop with Star Wars before.
Yeah.
And I had that same thing happen to me because I also worked at a summer camp over the summer, and we'd have kids only come in for like a week. And there was a week where I had this really nerdy kid, and he was like, I mean, we're nerds, I can say that. And he was just like, oh my gosh, Bad Batch, it's so good. And this was like near the end of the season too. Like we were very far in, and he was like, well, this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And then I was like, okay, stop before you actually spoil something that matters to me. And if you follow Star Wars on Instagram, like I do, I keep seeing all these posters for the different characters, and I'm like, yeah. So I got spoiled of a few characters that were in it, but nothing too, crazy. So, do you think that did hinder the way that we looked at the show, or the way that you looked at the show anyway, versus if you were to have watched it episodically?
No, because I think it was I just had I'll go ahead and spoil it. Not spoil it, but get it out of the way that the Ryloth episodes are my favorite, and being able to see those back to back,
Yeah.
I ultimately, for that experience, I value that a little
Yeah,
bit more than
I agree.
being in the community and talking week to week, because that's such a good arc that it was worth having that sort of back to back.
Yeah, and I think that those episodes were a lot like The Mandalorian in a way that they do really work as one movie. Um, almost. And so it's like you can just sit back and binge watch. But I'm also like a big like I really love to just go binge watch TV shows back to back to back to back like that, you know. Um I actually get quite annoyed when there's a big cliffhanger and I have to wait like a week to go like watch the next episode, especially if it is leading you on to think about this thing. So I quite enjoyed getting to watch it, you know, just binge the whole thing. Um, so yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed my viewing, even though it wasn't.
It's it's funny because I once I got time to, I basically like spread it out over the course of like a week, I think.
Yeah,
Um, and then I was like, all right, Spencer, I'm ready to record. I finished the show. And you're like, I can't. I haven't seen it yet. And then like you watch it all like last weekend.
yeah. I had like a 8 hour, not 8 hour, but I had like a 4 hour drive. So I was like downloaded all the episodes before I left, and here we go. So that's kind of what happened. So they're all fresh on the mind, you know, more fresh. That's how we like to do things here on the Last Star Wars podcast. Things fresh on the mind.
Yeah, it's fresh, but it's also behind schedule. We were gonna do this 2 weeks ago.
Hey, we don't talk about that. It's fine, fine. Uh, so I think one of the things that we wanted to talk about is have our opinions changed now after watching the rest of the show than it was after watching the first two episodes, because I know that in our Future of Star Wars episode where we first talked about this show when it was going to come out, is that neither of us were super like excited about this show. We were both kind of like, yeah, we don't really need it, but it could be good. I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah.
Just see. And then after the first two episodes, at least I was like, okay, like I kind of like the show. I'm excited to see where it goes. I think it could be a really good show. I think that's where you were.
Yeah, I was listening to some of that episode before we started recording, and you like and we went into all the different sort of corners of like why we change our opinions, but like the best example of that is just you being like, hey, do you like the character of Omega? And I was like, yeah. Like that's like the centerpiece of like me liking the show. Like they needed Omega to make this group of characters interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously that stuck through the rest of the show. So I continued to like it more and more.
So you're saying that you do like the show more, and that you are calling your past self wrong that this is a good show.
Uh, I was not wrong with the information I was given.
that that accurate? Yeah. Okay.
Like I was making a preemptive sort of opinion based off of my own tastes and based off of, what I liked about the Bad Batch so far, and I didn't like them so far. So I
Yeah.
didn't think I had a reason to be excited.
I do agree that I think if Omega wasn't in this, then this would be, I don't know how, it basically would have just been Clone Wars, but like, you know, you have different clones this time. So there wouldn't have really been a
Yeah.
whole point to it. Um, Adding Omega definitely does add in a whole new level of like complexity and a whole new like relationship to explore between,
Yeah.
especially Hunter and Omega. But
It makes it about more than just filling out the gaps of canon.
yeah, exactly, which they also like did very well. In a way that didn't seem super forced to be like, well, now we're transitioning to stormtroopers. Like it just kind of like happened, and you were like, oh, okay, that's cool. Um, but no, I absolutely love this show. I don't think I like it more than Clone Wars, but I like it a lot. Clone Wars season 7, I think, still takes the cake over this season of the show, but I really like it. I like it a lot more than I thought I would. And I wasn't super upset about all these big characters showing up. So that's good. I think they did it okay, which I guess goes into our next topic of
Yeah.
discussion that you wanted to discuss.
Yeah, the great question of Star Wars fan service. How much of it is good? Your opinion can selectively sort of swing between different sides of it depending on the work. So yeah, how do we think the show handled fan service and the way they characterized, different characters who came in a different form, and if they help the story?
Yeah,
What do you think?
I think the three biggest characters that we have to look at are obviously Cad Bane, Fennec Shand, and Rex. Like they are the three like big ones.
No.
No, you don't think that?
Uh, Hera had a much bigger role in the show than Fennec Shand.
Yeah. Okay. I was gonna get to that last because it was bigger, but we're gonna talk about the smaller three.
But you said that they were the biggest.
Okay. I was trying to build, my guy. Okay. I'm trying to build. Um, but I mean, we can talk about Hera first. Hera's always been like she was one of my favorite characters in Rebels. So seeing her as a child. Okay, I do have a question. I haven't seen Rebels in a long time. Didn't she say her mom was dead in Rebels? Or her mom was killed?
Yeah.
So I knew that, and so I fully expected her mom to like die at the end of this arc. Like I expected this to be like Hera's full-on backstory, like her mom died, which it still was, but I expected her mom to die at the end of this. So when she didn't, I was like, oh, okay, well, she's good. She'll die later, I guess.
Yeah. So just to quickly touch upon her in terms of like our like little fan service segment. Hera is I feel like her characterization was so good that like I couldn't even tell that it was Vanessa Marshall voicing her. I thought they just got another actor.
Yeah.
But she's literally that good at like not only like playing a younger character, but like she like changed the accent convincingly and like yeah, and then like it's the thing that like it comes in a good part of the show where we're getting repetitive a little bit, not in a bad way. It's just like we're in a groove with sort of the missions that the Bad Batch are going on, and it was a great little break to start the episode. This is the episode Devil's Deal, I think. It was starting from Hera's perspective. And I think I always, I mean, you look at the Passenger of Mandalorian, that episode. That's a different show altogether. But I tend to like, oh, the most different episode is the best. But so that's me.
Yeah.
But I like when shows do that. Yeah, it was just cool to sort of weave in a bit of lore. And okay, sorry, I'm doing an Australian accent again.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Bit of lore, and then making it just feel organic and not and like its own show. It doesn't feel like a Clone Wars arc, although it kind of is because it's a two-parter.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a Rebels episode. It's sort of like forging its own sort of lane within Star Wars animation. The pacing of the show is just very, especially those two episodes, very like slow and still. And we sort of like really like because they did it a 44-minute, I guess, or actually it probably goes all the way to an hour, right? Aren't the episodes longer?
No, the episodes are all like 22, 24 minutes after the first episode.
But it still feels like very
yeah. No, I agree.
They really let in a bunch of the drama and then got to the action. I've been talking too much. You're right. We're a bit rusty.
We are a bit slightly rusty, but it'll be good. This is our like get back to it episode.
All right, fan service for you. You like to talk about Fennec Shand. It's your favorite bounty hunter of recent years. So what do you think of how they did her?
I liked that it wasn't like a lot of times when you see fan service in especially a Star Wars capacity, what they'll do is they'll just like really focus on that character over and over and like just keep coming back to it, keep coming back to it, keep coming, like reminding you that character's there, like, oh, remember this, remember this. Whereas like Finnick could easily, the way that they wrote her in and the way that they used her could have literally been any bounty hunter. It just happened to be Finnick. Like they didn't feel the need to. I may be making zero sense, but like they didn't feel the need to like go back and continuously remind you, hey, remember this is from this thing, this is from this thing. Like they could have put any other bounty hunter there and it would have played the same role. It just so happens that we know this character already.
Yeah.
And I think they did the same thing with Cad Bane, and I really loved the standoff between Cad Bane and Finnick Shand. That was just a really cool. I love that sequence because we're seeing the old school bounty hunter that we know and probably love. I love Cad Bane from Clone Wars, and then we're seeing like the new era of bounty hunters of because they mentioned that Finnick Shand's very new to the game at this point. So like she's like the new school, and we're seeing this like face off, and I just think that's really cool. So
Yeah.
both of them, and I also loved Rex. I think Rex kind of did the same thing.
For Fennec, it just seems like they could have done a lot more different things with her. Like they just seem to like copy and pasted her Mandalorian. Not only her look, but just her characterization. She doesn't seem any different than in the Mandalorian. And that Mandalorian takes place like 20 years later, right?
Something like that.
Yeah. I'm not trying to be nitpicky. It just feels like a character would be a lot different at the start of the Empire than after the Empire's gone. I don't know, but it was a cool like it didn't hinge upon her character as like it's not like you know how Cham Syndulla has appeared in different Clone Wars episodes and Rebels episodes,
Yeah.
Bad Batch as well, and then like I hear he's also been in like a book and like his characterization is different based off of like what knowledge was given to the writers of the book or the animators or whatever. And like that's something that could make or break the story. It could really change how you perceive everything. With Fennec Shand, it's just like she's just an antagonist. So it's not that like big of a deal. I don't know. You know, why couldn't it's not a complaint, but
Yeah.
that's just my perspective on it. And then Cad Bane. I think it was cool. I think the fact that he did the standoff with Hunter was a great little cliffhanger that we didn't fully feel because we're binging it, but
Yeah.
it was nice. It was a nice way to cap off that story, or that one episode. I will say though, maybe it's because I grew up with Cad Bane as like the bounty hunter like that they hired, that the separatists hired. Like that's always like the scariest version of him for me.
Yeah, no, I think so.
But yeah, it's still definitely cool. I like that they I really love the arc where, or not the arc, but like the B plot where Omega was trying to manipulate his robot
Yeah. So let
to
him
set it free.
Yeah, that was. I mean, because that's like right before you realize how smart Omega actually is. Because I think that's before she plays the game in Sid's thing, right?
You didn't think she was smart already?
I did, but you know what I mean. Like, there's a whole nother level once they realize how strategic.
I know what you mean. But sometimes you just say things, and I don't need to.
Bad way.
I don't need to correct you on everything. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Sometimes I just say things in a bad way, and I need somebody to give me a good old knocking, whatever that means. I will say regarding the Ryloth episode, I think the Ryloth episodes also ended up being my two favorites, probably, if not like, I think it was either those or I really liked the Rex episode and the Gregor episode.
Mhm.
So, but when we first saw that we were going to Ryloth, I kind of audibly went, oh, because like we'd seen Ryloth a lot. We'd seen Ryloth a lot in Clone Wars and Rebels and like combined. I was like, oh well, I mean, what new can they do on Ryloth that hasn't been done? They're just gonna free this Ryloth citizens again. They do it every time. But like then like genuinely really enjoyed the arc more than I thought I would. So um, it felt like you said, it felt like they were doing something different than Clone Wars or different than Rebels. And they did Ryloth in their own way, especially including Hera in that. And I really loved that arc as well.
Okay.
I have some. So, oh, but I should also mention that I thought that the dude who took over from, like, who took over Sid's place, I thought that was the dude from Rebels. The dude who Ezra runs it. It's not. He's the same species, but it's not the same guy.
Yeah.
I was really confused for like half the episode because I was like, oh, they're like introducing this character's backstory now. And then I looked up his name and I was like, oh, not the same guy. But speaking of, what do you think of Sid and like that relationship between her and the Bad Batch? Because I know like I've talked to people who have issues with that whole like mission after mission after mission, seeing it just filler episodes or whatever. What do you think about that whole scenario?
Well, I think I knocked those out pretty quickly in like a day or two. So it didn't feel like filler episodes to me. It all felt like they were building on each other.
Yeah.
And it was cool to see like Omega sort of get to be a civilian in a lot of ways. And then yeah, Sid's like strange sort of mentorship of her, and like she's not, I'll be honest, I don't fully remember how we left off Sid, but I just know that like she's not
Literally
entirely.
they were on a mission for her that they like that they don't talk about. It's one of those like at the beginning of the episode, they're like, oh, we're on this mission for Sid, you know, and then they literally leave the mission to go to Camino.
Yeah, that's right. So
They
we
leave-
don't have any closure. That's probably like one of the consequences that'll be in season 2 is the fact that they abandoned their mission.
Yeah.
Um uh I think, okay, well, the thing that I wanted to bring up is the fact that like Echo was barely in the show.
Yeah, that kind of sucked because I really like
He's like in the background for like half the episodes. And then like other episodes he will like have a line or whatever, and that'll just sort of work for Omega's arc maybe and give a different perspective to that, but he's like you hardly notice him in so many episodes.
the show is basically Hunter, Wrecker, and Omega, and then Tech and Echo are both kind of just like they're chill. They're fixing the ship constantly.
Yeah.
That's about it. But I liked the Sid stuff. I feel like Omega could not have been the absolute BA that she was at the end of the show if she didn't go on these missions. So while I can kind of see how people are like, we're getting tired of watching, I think it was 3 in a row episodes of them just going on missions. I think it definitely served as like training / character development for Omega, like becoming officially like part of the crew and learning how she best fits in and getting closer with them so that when they get to Camino, she is like fully like she's battle ready, man. Like she's still scared, but like she's prepared. I think
it was those episodes where Wrecker got to bond with her more.
Yeah, he built her the little,
which was good.
He built her a room,
yeah,
which was really sweet. He gave her they didn't make a big deal of this, but he gave her his stuffed animal. In the episode he built her a house, he put his stuffed animal in there, and we see in the first episode that he is so attached to that thing. It's not funny, and he gave that to her, and no one mentions it in the show when he does it, and it's like one of those little beats that I was like, oh, that's like really sweet, and I wish they would mention it, but they're not, like they didn't, but that's really sweet, and that just shows that Wrecker actually does care.
Yeah. I feel like they could have given Echo and Tech a lot more of those moments.
Yeah, for sure.
They sort of reserved it for Wrecker.
Mm.
And then like Hunter had a lot of those like leadership like decisions and like big brother decisions that like sort of revolved around the plot revolved around those things. But I mean, Tech is just there to give statistics and like offer very convenient information. He's not really a fully formed character yet.
Yeah. And what sucks is that my two favorite characters when we saw them in season 7 were Tech and Crosshair. And in this season, I'm just like, like both of them kind of just like,
Yeah, because I mean, you're into Tech and you look like Crosshair. So
well, I've always just really liked the sniper marksman characters. And so that also is like a thing. And I relate to Tech a lot. And so it's just like, I want to like him so much, but I can't because his character is like nothing in this. Like, he literally has like 0 character development. He's like, I'm techie. Well, that's his thing. And then Echo's like, I'm techie too. I'm just a cyborg and techie.
yeah, I'm the guy with an arm that plugs into things.
Yeah. Jeez. So I think the thing that we have to talk about that we've been putting out is the reveal of why people are so intrigued in Omega. And if you haven't watched the show, why are you listening to this episode and why have you not clicked away yet? But spoiler, Omega is one of 2 remaining copies of the original Jango Fett DNA. There's only been 2 clones apparently in history that have not been tampered with to be
soldiers.
So basically, all of them had like sped up growth cycles genetically, and they were also modified to be more apt to commands and to respond better to commanders and stuff like that. And then they went crazy with Squad 99. But Omega and Boba Fett were not altered in any way from the original DNA of Jango Fett, except for obviously Omega being a girl. That's basically the only difference. So the Kaminoans wanted to, I guess, restart the cloning process, and they needed Jango Fett's original DNA to do this. But as you all know, Jango Fett's dead at this point. So Omega is the only, and they don't know where Boba Fett is. So Omega is the only source that they know of. So that's why the bounty hunters are after her. And we also find out that she was there when Task Force 99 was created. She worked in the lab that they were created in. So does that?
She's older.
Yeah, she's older than all of them, even though but she just has a normal, I would assume she's like Boba Fett. She has a normal growth cycle. Like she grows at normal human rate. So that also puts into perspective how young Task Force 99 is. Because I think people forget that the Clone Wars were only like 3 years long or something like that. Like they weren't long at all. So Task Force 99 may only be 3 years old, max. And so Omega was there when they were made. She's also part of the first generation of clones. So she was made when Boba Fett was. So they're like the same, probably age at this point. So what do you think about that whole reveal? Do you think that it paid off? Do you think it was useless or what?
I think it's like I already felt that there was something unique about her that like it's not central to the story that we find out what it is, and lets it like really sort of mean something to the characters in there. And I feel like it's hard. I watched this like a few weeks ago, so I don't fully remember their reaction to it.
Yeah, well, see, like for me, I was like, I knew there was something about her. I thought that it would be that she was also altered in some way, and like even she didn't know it. But I don't really think it changes a whole lot. The reveal doesn't really change a whole lot in the course of like the dynamic of the character. Like it doesn't make her be like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy, like blah blah blah, like all this stuff, you know. And like they don't really look at her differently. Like they kind of still, even after they figure that out, they still treat her the same way, kind of thing, which is
Mhm.
not a bad thing. It's like it doesn't really change a whole lot. Maybe it changes things next season. Maybe it becomes more of a big deal because we see at the end of the season that the head scientist is still alive and has been captured by the Empire, and they want her to start the cloning process again. So I would assume Bad Batch season 2 is a thing, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So I would figure that would mean that they're gonna still go after her next season, and that's gonna be like the big thing.
Yeah,
Because
I think Nala Se is still a very murky character that it's hard to read her, and it's hard to like figure out what her intentions are.
yeah,
I think it's entirely plausible that she cloned Omega for like her own purposes.
yeah. I think
Um,
there's more to Omega's story that we don't know yet. Because they wouldn't tease this much being weird about her, and then the only thing it is like, oh, she's like Boba Fett.
yeah,
It feels like there's
that's it. I feel like we don't fully know yet if she knows Boba Fett or not, right?
no, we don't. Because she never says it. Not I think it was Nala Se who's the only one who actually mentions Boba Fett when talking to. I think she was talking to the Imperial officer, the Admiral guy. So, um, I think she's the only one that actually mentions Boba Fett. So, does this mean that Boba Fett is in the next season? Probably not. But
Uh, I think it's entirely possible.
I think
I
it
feel like
is.
they would do that,
Yeah, I think
especially coming off of Book of Boba Fett,
that's
which I guess these decisions were sort of made around the same time anyway, around the time of like Mando season 2
mhm.
planning stages. But like they've obviously figured out a way to reintroduce Boba Fett into canon, and they're not gonna miss out on that opportunity.
I think that
Um,
they might.
my opinions on how they uh how they see Boba Fett are for a later date, for a later episode. We don't
Yeah,
need to talk about that right
we'll
now.
talk about that during our. We'll do a Bad Batch season 2, like precursor, I guess, and we'll talk about that. Um,
But
before.
we'll also have time to talk about it during the Book of Boba Fett season coming December 29th.
All right. So the last thing that I had to discuss was the ending of the season. So obviously there is no uh there is no redemption for Crosshair. Um I guess the big reveal is that Crosshair had his inhibitor chip removed. Do we see that he had his inhibitor chip removed?
He
No,
said that he had it removed.
a while ago. So I don't
Yeah.
think we saw it, but we saw
We
them trying to like fix it or whatever.
we've seen his head scar, and he said that he got it removed a while ago.
Yeah. I was remembering there was a scene in either episode 1 or 2 when they're like experimenting on him, trying to see if his inhibitor chip is working at full capacity or not. Remember when he first like joined, like when he first betrays them? Maybe I'm making it up, but
I don't remember.
I don't know. Maybe it was there.
I don't remember I don't remember that scene in the first 2 episodes. No.
Okay. So, but anyway, so we figure out that Crosshair's had his inhibitor chip removed, and that all of this is just legitimately him being joining the Empire. So, um, and he does help them escape Camino, but he doesn't join them and instead chooses, I guess he chooses to join the Empire at the end of the season. He stays on Camino while it's burning with no ship.
Yeah, I think
What did
this
you?
is something we did. We did sort of foresee this in our Bad Batch breakdown number one, where like we were talking about how this is sort of just his personality.
Mhm.
Like we didn't know about about the chip, but we still thought that like he is the biggest jerk out of the entire group and
Yeah.
the most inclined to fall in line with the Empire. So like, it's really interesting that they had that sort of twist that like he's already had the chip removed, and they covered that up so well because he got a Star Destroyer engine to the face. So we assumed the scar was just from his wound because he had to shave his head after that. And it was like, no, that scar is not from his injury. It's from the chip. That was so cool.
Yeah. I mean, I don't.
It was that whole sort of exchange with him and Hunter, series of exchanges where they're just arguing, and like Hunter and the Bad Batch are like so ready to welcome him.
Yeah.
And in a way, I feel like that sort of redeems him. Like the fact that like they were already ready to take him back, and then he saves Omega with his harpoon gun, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Something like that.
And they're all like, they all pull a blaster on him after that, though.
Yeah, because I think just like reflex, just seeing him firing a gun, it's like they immediately draw their weapons. He's just like, I don't know if he feels like undeserving that they want him back, or just like he's just too committed to the Imperial cause. But it's a very striking image to leave on, just seeing him alone on Camino.
Yeah. So did you like that or no? Because I know that I was like, whenever that happened, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this ending. Like, it was good, but like, I don't know. I don't want to say that I wanted Crosshair's redemption, because I feel like that would have been a really cheap way out to be like, oh, we're ending the season exactly where we ended it, where we started it. But I don't know. It just felt weird. The
It would
ending.
have been different because
That's,
Camino was gone and they're on the run, and
that's true. So maybe secretly I did want his redemption, but I don't know. It just felt weird to me. The ending did. Maybe it'll make more sense when or maybe it's like over a second watch, it'll make more sense or something. But yeah, it just felt weird to me at some point. I don't know why, but I loved that he did get to save Omega at that one point, like show that he's not all completely a terrible person overall. But one thing that I thought was funny that was going on has nothing to do with this, but I just thought about it. Is that so? I had been told by somebody that there would be a big reveal in the show. That's all I was told. Like, is that there would be a big reveal, and so I thought that like something was gonna happen. I couldn't like basically throughout binging the show, I was like, ooh, maybe the reveal is this. Whenever I would see something that even like resembled something from another like Star Wars entity, I would like be like, oh, maybe this is the reveal. Maybe this is the reveal. But what I genuinely thought the reveal was going to be was whenever Crosshair did take that engine to the face and was all bandaged up, he looked like Dengar. And I was like, are they going to say that Crosshair is Dengar? Like, is that the reveal? Because, okay, remember, Dengar is wearing Imperial armor. Or it looks like Imperial
That's
armor.
true.
What he wears looks like Imperial armor. And he just got
It's like a brown version of the General Veer's chest plate.
And he's wearing all these bandages and stuff. So when Crosshair was like that, he looks just like Dengar. And I was like, wait, is this the real? But then they did it. I almost wanted them to do it just to be like, that's crazy and that's cool. But they didn't.
Yeah. Well, I think I think that Simon Pegg played Dengar in like the Clone Wars in a few episodes
I totally
and
forgot.
Battlefront as well. Um, but yeah, that would have been a nice. That would have been cool if this all was an excuse to do an origin story for like that bounty hunter lineup.
Yeah. Well, okay. Did you all? I don't know if you knew this, but I mean, you probably did because you're a nerd. But did you know that Dengar is in the Rise of Skywalker?
No,
So
is it
apparently,
a ship?
no, he's like actually in it. So at some point between when we see him in Empire Strikes Back, he changes his name and becomes Rothgar Ding. Um, and he's basically a cyborg.
Is this from a comic? This sounds like a comic.
I don't know, but he's in the Rise of Skywalker.
That sounds like an entirely different character, though.
It looks like an entirely different character, but what I'm looking at, according to Wikipedia, is so Rothgar Ding, under an alias, was a male Corellian bounty hunter who, by the time of the war between the First Order and the Resistance, was old and experienced. Yeah, it's saying that he. Oh, this may just be. I think this is saying that he's maybe Dengar.
This is some
Oh,
creepy and freaky stuff right
are you
here.
looking at it? Are you looking at it? It's creepy looking,
It's
but it says
uh,
that he is Dengar.
he doesn't even look human though.
No, he doesn't. Who knows? Um, I don't know.
But he
I've
shows up. He shows up in the cantina in Rise of Skywalker, the John Williams cantina.
hmm. So who knows?
In an
But
attempt to live and work forever, Dang subjected himself to cybernetic replacements and turned to black market surgical clinics to replace damaged body parts. According to a rumor, Dang was the bounty hunter Dengar, who had a similar name and surgeries the two individuals had. Dang was present on the planet Kijimi when it was destroyed, but it was not known if he survived. This is okay. This is like one of the things that's annoying about Rise of Skywalker is that they have so many like weird connections that are just in the encyclopedias.
yeah,
There's things like this in every new Star Wars movie, but like this amount of creativity to like just a character in one shot, like they were going off, they were going ham in the encyclopedias. It's so weird.
it is. It
They
is.
just thought of all these weird backstories. Some of them like actually were vital to the story. Others were like fun little things like this,
Yeah.
all in just the background of Rise of Skywalker. Very strange.
The
But this
question,
is like, I don't know. I don't need a conclusion of whether or not he's Dengar. That's like
I don't care. I don't give a crap. But
that's a fun little mystery
yeah,
that they
but
could
how fun would it
like
have been?
explore.
But how fun would it have been if Crosshair became Dengar? Because oh no, never mind. Because we see Dengar in the Clone Wars,
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
so he's already a. Never mind then. I didn't. I had totally forgotten that he was in Clone Wars until you mentioned it. Like I'd forgotten. I thought that his first appearance was Empire Strikes Back. Like maybe, but no. I was like, he looks way too much like him. I thought that was the big reveal, and then it wasn't. I guess. I guess the big reveal was Crosshair's inhibitor chip being taken out. That might have been what it was. I don't remember like what bit because there was a couple of reveals. I was trying to figure out what reveal they may have been talking about. But yeah. Um so the last question that I have is, are you excited for season 2?
Yes, because it's it presents a lot of new possibilities with Omega. To I don't know, the more kid characters, the better. I feel like it's always cool to have that sort of perspective in Star Wars,
Yeah.
especially when they're continuously like wiser than the adult characters in the show.
Yeah.
Like that's very fun.
Yeah. Well, and do you? So do you think that Omega will be like older physically in the second season? Do you think like they'll have her grow up to be like a little bit of a teenager, be a little bit bigger, or do you think they'll keep
Uh,
her size?
I
I mean,
the season's probably gonna pick up right where they left off, I would
yeah,
assume.
yeah, you're right.
It's one of those things, a lot of TV shows in general do this, where like the first season like ends and then you need a second season that picks up where it left off. And
Mhm.
then the third season takes a time jump. I feel like that happens in so many TV shows nowadays.
I could also see them doing it not that way because I could see them doing like, oh, it's been a year since Crosshair was left on Camino. We haven't seen him. We don't know what's going on with the Empire and their cloning. Like we don't know. Like that could easily be a possibility. But then everything's just like up in the wind and it adds that extra level of mysterious to the second
Yeah,
season.
but it's also fun when you can look at the entire like story spanning from like the season one finale to like I don't know the entire season two, and
Yeah.
just like if it's all that happens and it's like this has been one crazy week,
Yeah.
like if like the John Wick trilogy,
Yeah.
where it's just like this is all within a week of each other. That's always very fun.
I'm cool with either one. I really don't care. I'm just really excited for season two now. I'm excited for it. And as much as we were hesitant about this show, we will both admit that we were wrong, and that this show is pretty awesome. And I'm excited
Yeah,
to see it continue.
it's the transition from Republic to Empire is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Something we haven't really touched on here too much.
We get phase 2.5 armor for the first time in like canon. It's what that stuff was at the end of the season with the glowy eyes. It's considered phase 2.5. It's been in the video games, but it's never been in like actual canon.
Which characters wore this?
Some of the clone troopers, or some of the, not clone troopers, but some of the recruits wore them once they started transitioning into stormtrooper armor, or like early stages stormtrooper armor. Some of them wore what looked like clone armor, but with like glowing blue visors.
I thought those were the commandos.
No, they're slightly different. They're like slightly updated. They're considered, I think, phase 2.5 or something.
Because in the Gregor episode, they were all in stormtrooper armor,
Except for like a couple.
except for the clone leaders, the commandos.
Well, I'll show you a picture of them after the podcast. But basically, we've seen this armor in the Battlefront games and a couple, like the old Battlefront games, like on the PSP and stuff. But we've never seen them in canon, so it's kind of cool. I like them, and I'll take some pretty cool armor upgrades. So, and yeah, like you said, I don't think they forced. I don't think it felt like a, well, now we're transitioning. It's now the Empire. It was just like, all right, now this is a thing now. Cool. All right, now this is a thing. Epic.
Yeah. It's similar to Rebels and seeing like Civilization sort of being sort of blackmailed or manipulated by the Empire, but it's very interesting when it's under the guise of we just did something good for you, now pay us back with your loyalty and resources.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very stressful to watch in a lot of those episodes, and seeing clones be in the middle of that is super interesting as well. Hauser is my favorite like side character of the show. Do you remember Hauser?
Is he the one that convinced his battalion to like not shoot them at the?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the handsome clone from the right left arc, and it's just like they're not even addressing the inhibitor chip, and like there's no Jedi in the episode, and it's fun because it's just like these are just clones acting out of their own free will, and they don't really like he probably survived Order 66, and like there weren't any Jedi on Ryloth, so he never acted out.
Yeah.
You know, and there was like no change for him. So it's cool. And like it has like the inhibitor chip doesn't have anything to do with him like rebelling against other clones. It's just like it was only that fail safe to kill Jedi. And since it wasn't useful for him, you can see a clone in real time sort of like logic and himself into rebelling.
Because like in his
and without the whole conspiracy element. It's just like this is what the clone should be doing.
yeah, because in his eyes, maybe the Jedi did turn on the clones or whatever, because that's what he's told. But he still remembers the lessons that they taught him, and like he knows that while in his eyes and from what he knows, maybe the Jedi were bad people, but he knows that the lessons that he learned were not bad.
Well, yeah, and we don't really know that because
we don't. But yeah, like I said, we have no idea. But yeah, that was so cool. I was just really intrigued by the fact that like his inhibitor chip was not forcing his loyalty. It was literally just him not knowing. For a lot, and you could see him questioning throughout the episode. And that was awesome. So yeah.
We see Orn Free Ta finally die.
Yeah.
That was a nice little twist. The way that the Empire was like able to frame Cham for murdering Orn Free Ta. All of that. Oh man. It's again best arc from the show.
It is. It's one of the more like being afraid of the Empire things and seeing it was a backdoor window into seeing how the Empire took over places. And it wasn't always by force. It was by convincing the civilization that they were legitimately like doing the right thing, quote unquote. So yeah. Like what the people on Ryloth, for all they knew, like that he really did try to assassinate their leader, and the Empire is now protecting him. So they're like, awesome, cool, we'll go with that. So I just think that's very intriguing, and I hope that we get a little bit more of that in the next season. Or just like the Empire just like manipulating the crap out of people. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, now it's time to let's do some like quick like hard predictions for season 2.
Predictions, got it. What do you got?
Are we gonna see Kanan on the run in season 2?
I could see them doing it. Probably. I doubt that they would just introduce him and then never come back. I don't think that they would show him and never come back. So short answer, probably.
I think I'll say no. I don't think they're gonna do too much with Jedi.
Boba Fett.
I think it's an interesting question. Boba Fett, yes.
Yeah, I think Boba Fett. Sure. Now that they've name dropped him, I think he has to show up.
Darth Vader.
Ooh, Darth Vader. This is really early Darth Vader too, right? Because this is like he just became Darth Vader this season.
Yeah.
So hopefully, but I would like to.
I don't think he's needed, so I don't think it would be a good idea.
I think it would be, even if he's just like his name's in there, I think that would be cool, but probably not. Rex, I think is definitely coming back. I don't think that's not a hot take.
Mon Mothma and Bail Organa.
That's a good question, because we don't really see a whole lot of them though until Hera is old enough to join the rebellion. So I'm gonna say no.
We haven't seen Hera join the rebellion.
Yeah, we did at the end during Rebels.
She's already in the rebellion then.
Oh yeah.
So she joins probably when she's like late teens, I would assume. I just think that there's a strong possibility that the Bad Batch sort of do something with the Empire related to Rex, because that's what Rex doing. Rex is doing sort of little covert missions for the early stages of rebellion. And I would assume, since there's like probably not very many ranks, he's like directly answering to Bail and Mothma,
Probably.
and that he's probably pretty high on the chain of command because there's not that many people, I would assume.
Yeah.
So it's like a thing of like there's not going to be an entire like group of rebel leaders necessarily. It'll be connected to Rex, but Rex maybe, I don't know if Rex would need to introduce them to him, but like to Bail and Mon.
mhm.
But it would be cool to see like what the formal sort of organization of the rebellion is at this time.
Do you think this may be a long shot, but do you think Wolf will be in season 2? We
Does
got
he die in Clone Wars?
no, because remember he, Gregor, and Rex are the ones on that planet. And
Oh, right. Yeah. So he's definitely in this. Yeah.
so I think Wolf has to be in the season now that we've gotten Gregor.
Yeah.
I was totally expecting Wolf to show up like the episode after we saw Gregor. I was like, oh, they're gonna go get Wolf. Yeah.
Wolf is very interesting in Clone Wars because some episodes he'd be suited up, and some of them he would just like in a plain uniform without armor.
Yeah.
And like they would never explain it. He was just like, I'm just on the Star Destroyer commanding stuff.
Yeah.
And then other times he's like suited up, like I'm ready to kill some battle droids.
Yeah. Like you said, I don't think they'll do much with Jedi. So I think even though she's with Rex, I think Ahsoka's off the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's up because at this point she will have just captured or just had that whole Darth Maul encounter.
Yeah.
Ravus. So she's not. Yeah.
Another thing to predict is Crosshair gonna fully cross over
To the Empire or to the good side?
to the Bad Batch.
I think that at the beginning of the first, I think at the beginning at least, he'll still be on Empire side. I think there's a chance that he could come back over and be, get the redemption.
It'd be interesting to see if there's like any number of like members could be kidnapped or whatever. Like, I wonder if like as soon as he joins, maybe another person gets lost or something like that, or
hopefully, Tech gets some like character development.
Yeah, it'd be cool if they separated in a different permanent way,
Yeah.
because the whole season 1 was like, it's the Bad Batch, but Crosshair's on the other side. What if season 2 was like, it's the Bad Batch, but they don't have their tech support?
Yeah, but then Tech gets even less character development.
No, if he's on his own, then he'd get a lot of development.
Oh, that's what you mean. I thought you meant like he would just be gone there trying to go get him.
No.
Oh, okay. The only other character that I can think of is Cut. Will Cut be in it again? Because he's left.
No.
He's good. Yeah, I think he's gone for good.
Cody though.
I would love to see Cody.
That's like I really these sort of looking for answers, looking for canon gaps to be filled. All I've ever wanted to know since I was a kid was like what happens to Rex, what happens to Cody, because they're the most prominent clones that there's no way, since they're so cool, that they could just die with the Empire starting over. So like
the last time we saw,
it'd be cool to see where he is.
Last time we saw Cody was episode 3, right? He wasn't in Rebels.
Yeah.
So
I think it's implied that he's not someone to side with. He's just a normal clone, just with a lot of experience that we've seen in the episode. So I think if he interacted maybe with Crosshair, and what if, because what Crosshair needs to realize is that he's obsolete and that he can be replaced.
Yeah.
And so what if he and Cody realize this together?
When Cody's also having to deal, if Cody is not, terrible, he's having to deal with the fact that he just killed Obi-Wan Kenobi. Because he thinks he killed Obi-Wan. So if he is indeed still a good guy, he now has to deal with the fact that he killed his Jedi.
Yeah. just a lot of sort of guilt as a veteran, I guess, of the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
I think if he interacted with Crosshair within the Empire,
Mm-hmm.
that would be very interesting to see.
I think so too. I think that's who I would want to see the most, other than like Boba. But I don't know, because Boba is a bad guy at this point. Like Boba's not great. He's interacting with bounty hunters at this point. Like he's still in that whole like he's with Cad Bane and Aura Singh and all them in Clone Wars.
Oh yeah, he's like probably 18 at this point.
He's like an adult and a douchebag, probably. So he probably wouldn't get along with the Bad Batch. But no, he'd probably be the same. He'd be the same age as Omega, because they were made it.
No, they don't have to be though.
Unless he was made like pre Gen 1 clones.
I mean, it's like a sample from the DNA. It's more about
Yeah, that's
like
true.
it doesn't have to be made at the same time.
That's true. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm ready to see it. And the next thing that we have coming up is Visions, so I need to watch that.
Yeah, Spencer, get on it.
Get on it. I'm sorry.
I need to watch it. I'm gonna watch it a second time, because I like watched it the first day, and then I haven't thought about it since, because I've delayed it. It's not in a bad way. It's just because I've been trying to think more about Bad Batch, and if I watched Visions the second time, I'd be so obsessed with it that I like couldn't focus on Bad Batch.
How many episodes?
8, I think.
Oh, easy.
Varying in length, and it's not a long thing, but
Isn't
what
it
I'm gonna do.
one continuous non-canon story?
What do you mean continuous?
Like, aren't they, or not continuous, but aren't they all in the same non-canon universe?
They don't connect.
Oh, okay. I know little about this show.
Some of them I feel like you could easily just say, yeah, those are canon. Some of them are like this is a story told about the story of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Where like some planet, some like folklore is made about events on the Star Wars timeline that maybe they tell each other within the universe or whatever.
Cool.
That's the way you could explain it. Or you could explain it as these creators paid tribute to these things in Star Wars, and told their own story. It's in a lot of ways, it's like, I don't know, you could maybe look at it as like a hypothetical episode, like what we do with our hypotheticals, where we try to talk about the core themes of Star Wars if different plot things happened, except they're dealing with their own original characters.
That's cool.
And it's like it's so ingrained into the spirit of Star Wars that like that's more important than where it fits.
Awesome.
I will admit though, some of like trying to figure out how it fit messed with me on my first watch.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna watch it a second time. And also apparently some of the translation is weird. So I'm gonna watch it in Japanese with subtitles to see if it makes it better.
All right.
But
sounds good. Well, I'm very excited about
teaser
that.
for next week, Star Wars Visions.
I'm very excited for that. And you guys should come back next week to hear us not be rusty on a podcast on our first week back. So right now, we'd like to thank you for listening to this episode of the Last Star Wars podcast. It's very much a good time to be back into the podcasting season, and we're about to hit the ground running with some content in the near future. So if you want to go find us on social media, you can go find us on Instagram and Twitter at the Last Star Wars Pod, or Star Wars Podcast. I mean, you can email us if you have like any suggestions for episodes, or you just want to talk to us. We'll read your email out on the podcast. You can email us at laststarwarspod@gmail.com. You can also reach us on any of our social medias if you really want to. Maybe that's your thing. So go give us a like and a follow. And I think next week or maybe this week we'll start posting these episodes on YouTube again. So go follow us on there too at Last Star Wars Podcast. Thank you once again for listening to this episode. That's it for me. Christian, anything else?